I'm thinking I need to have you talk about the defense for me because I have less than high expectations for certain players, like the number one pick from Iowa. But then I think last
Lucas
year,
Van Ness,
yes. But I looked last year, they were sixth in yards given up, which is huge, or points given up, excuse me. So there have to be things they're doing better than I'm giving them credit for. Like, I don't, what, you can't be sixth in points given up unless something's going,
right?
not just average, going well. And so I need to.
And fifth in total defense, too.
Yes.
Like they were.
So it's both.
I mean, statistically, they were really good. Now, again, not everybody plays the same teams. And I like to joke that by playing the AFC South, they were playing the Fox River Classic Conference with, 𝙃𝙊𝙈𝙀𝙍 and 𝙃𝙊𝙈𝙀𝙍, et cetera, right down the road. And obviously that's an overstatement. But, there were some not very good teams in that division. There's some not very good teams around the league, and if you get enough of them on your schedule, it certainly helps your statistics.
Yeah,
but
some. So say they were eighth or seventh. They put them a couple spots lower. It's still pretty good.
Right.
What's the best thing?
Exactly.
What was the best thing about the defense last year that I need to focus on more?
So I feel like they did a lot of things well, and then a couple things they did really poorly, right? I mean, you look at their pass rush, and talk about misleading statistics. I think they finished tied for 8th in the NFL in sacks. But they came like roughly half of those sacks. I think they finished with 41, maybe. Maybe it's 45, but like roughly half came like 3 games.
Okay.
And so that to me, that they all know that their pass rush was insufficient. Now, so that's the number one thing that has to get better. As far as the things they did well defensively, they took the ball away better. They were much better on third down. They improved across the board in just about every category from the final Joe Barry year. And I know you love yourself some Joe Barry, but it was clearly a significant upgrade. Now, that said, the pass rush, the silver lining of their pass rush being so crummy is that they basically had to adjust on the fly. They didn't end up running a lot of the defense that they planned on running when they hired Jeff Hafley. And I've said it a million times, the mark to me of a really good coach is not, his scheme is great, he does this, he does that. It's what do you do when things are not, what's not working, and how do you adjust to your personnel to make it work? And so he ran a lot of what they call simulated blitzes, simulated pressures where they would still bring 4, but they would drop somebody out and bring someone else, a corner or a safety or a linebacker. And now, because they did that when they weren't intending to, if their front 4 can rush the way, say, Phillies does or some of the other teams do, then you've added a piece to your toolbox of, okay, we're going to try and get pressure with these 4 as frequently as we can. But then if we're having a game where they're picking it up or we need to try something different, we've now got the ability, and we've seen it, we've proven it, we can send guys and they're going to be effective. And so that, to me, is the one silver lining of them being so crappy pass rush-wise overall. But to your point about Lucas Van Ness, and I would still say, despite his Pro Bowl selection, Rashawn Gary, they got to be better. Kenny Clark's got to be better. Devontae Wyatt, the way he started, you looked at him and were like, okay, I'm starting to see finally why they picked this guy in the first round. And then he hurts his ankle, and then even when he comes back, he's not very good. And then he kind of got things cooking a little bit toward the end, and then he still wasn't good enough. So I'm really curious to see what that group more than any other looks like, because I feel like on defense, the linebackers, I still am a Quay Walker believer. I know there's a lot of doubters. We all agree that Edgerrin Cooper looks like he is special. And then the corners, obviously, there's a concern with depth. I think the 3 they have, I feel pretty good about. That are their top 3. Not great about them, but pretty good. After that, I'd be scared, what-less if I was the Packers. So, whether or not those guys are good enough, that's the other question on the defensive side of the ball. But then they got a bunch of really good safeties, and, of course, one of the best in the game in Xavier McKinney.
The other thing, when I think about like the defense, that are we going to see anything different in terms of their approach? Like now it's his second year, so they're going to blitz more, they're going to blitz less, they're going to what?
Yes. I don't know what it's going to be, but Jeff Hafley had a great quote when we talked to him during the off-season program, where he basically said, "Look, yeah, we did a lot of really good things last year, and guess what? Everyone in the league saw the really good things we did, and that is going to be their focus. So we have to do things differently." Now, again, I don't want to keep harping on this, but to me, the biggest thing is, can you generate pressure with your front four? Because when you can do that and you're using, simulated pressures, blitzes, etc., you get to choose when you're using them, as opposed to feeling like you have to use them because otherwise you're not going to get any pressure on the quarterback whatsoever. So I do think you're going to see lots of different wrinkles. I think Jeff Hafley believes very strongly in you can't keep just doing what you're doing, as opposed to some other coaches who, I remember John Gruden saying this. I remember being at his coaches breakfast many, many years ago at the NFL meetings, where he said, "We do what we do, and we're going to make other people adjust to us." I just don't think that works. I think in this day and age, in this league, you can't get away with that. You have to be constantly evolving, and you certainly have the things that you believe in the most, and those are your core tenets of what you do defensively. But you have to be able to change things up because offenses are too well designed now.
I've said before, and it will certainly be repeated if it doesn't happen, that I have 𝙃𝙊𝙈𝙀𝙍 Cooper in the Packer Hall of Fame, and I do because he was, as a rookie, 2-time Defensive Player of the Week, and I don't know where I have to look to find any other Packer in the history of the team that was Defensive Player of the Week twice as a rookie. Somebody suggested Willie Buchanan, which is close to the Don Hudson era, but
that's possible. But even if you look at some of their best players, I'm not sure how often Clay Matthews was
as a rookie
Defensive Player of the Week as a rookie.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously Charles Woodson wasn't here as a rookie, but they have a bunch of guys. Let's be honest, they have a lot of really good defensive players over the time I've covered this team. Going back to Reggie and Leroy Butler, et cetera. And it's not like it's something that they won regularly, even with veteran players.
Right.
It's hard to do that. You have to have a really big game that week to win that.
And he didn't play that much, right?
Right. And look, one of the things about, and 𝙃𝙊𝙈𝙀𝙍 Cooper talked to us about, I have him on Channel 3000 today as number 5 on my list of most important Packers.
Number 5?
Undeniably. Yeah.
Okay.
Number 5. The quarterback, the running back, the safety who makes it all go.
I'm okay with 5.
And a specific tight end that I think is really important to what they do are going to be the top 4.
Better be
see
Tucker
what
Kraft.
order they're in. It's Ben Sims. Big surprise one. No, but the thing about
I thought maybe you were going to try go Musgrave on people, and I was hoping
no.
not.
He was 20. Yeah, he did make the list. I put him
That's
at
fine.
20 because I do think, and I wrote this in my tight end preview today. I do think that is a group that if they have Musgrave and Kraft at full strength, Kraft played 85% of the snaps last year. First of all, that's crazy. Second of all, the whole idea of drafting them both was so you could run a bunch of 12 personnel with 2 tight ends on the field and eat teams up because they wouldn't be able to match up with them. And Luke Musgrave has been, constantly hurt going back to his final year at Oregon State. But the thing about Cooper is he missed 3 games with a hamstring injury late in the year. And all these young guys, I was talking to Evan Williams about this too, all these young guys, that first year, they don't really know all the things they need to do to keep their bodies in the right spot, and more importantly, how to deal with injuries as they create issues for them. And so if 𝙃𝙊𝙀𝙀 Cooper also figures out that piece of it, and he can stay on the field and he makes sure that he's not, dehydrated or whatever makes him more susceptible to a hamstring pull like he had last year, that gives him 3 more opportunities to be a field tilting player for them.
All right. How do I find out if there are other rookies that have been? I guess I have to go through the defensive player of the week, or do I have to call the Packers?
Yeah, I'll look that up for you. I have not investigated that because I just thought he was special enough that I didn't necessarily need to compare him to how many times other rookies did that. But it's an interesting stat. I'll do the research on that. By the way, how often do you get to go to Marquette practice?
I never go. I could go every day if I wanted. I've made it clear for many years. No interest how somebody plays in practice. None. And I don't want to be swayed in any way. All I care about is what they do in the games. Now, I hear people tell me about certain players. That's not true. I did go see Dwayne Wade in practice.
Of course you did.
No, only because Tom Crean said yesterday in practice he scored 26 straight points. I think and I played him in a little game of horse. We didn't finish.
All right, well, then you're not going to be able to help me with my question, though. My question is, watching camp, they don't use whistles anymore. They use like a electric thing, like a electronic thing that they push a button, and it sounds like a whistle, but no one's actually blowing a whistle.
Good.
Which I find fascinating.
AI, let's go. I did want to ask you about training camp. It's like, what, a week away or what?
Yeah. Week from today.
Okay, has training camp become as meaningless in some ways as all the other workouts they have in terms of there's no contact, or what's the appropriate way to view training camp now?
It's the most important of all the off-season, outside of the regular season times of the year, obviously. There is contact. There are pads. There is no tackling to the ground, so it's not live tackling. There is the new invention in recent years. Well, I shouldn't say it was an invention in recent years, but it's been popularized and become much more commonplace in recent years. And that, of course, is the joint practice, which I believe, as you have said many times, has now become the new preseason game because your quarterbacks can't get hit, so you can actually have your starting quarterback participate with very little risk to him as opposed to playing him in a preseason game. That said, it's still not nearly as productive as the old days, as I like to say, back in the 90s and 2000s. But it's really important. And who it's most important for, like, here's one of the things. The competition thing is not it anymore. Like, there used to be a time, now there'll be a competition on left tackle, there'll be some other competitions, but there were times when I would come to training camp, and there were 5 or 6 training camp battles. That's not the case. You pretty much know who your guys are before you get to camp. And frankly, I think the left tackle competition is a little bit bogus.
I'm in that club. I lead that club. Not only a little bogus, totally bogus. We both know who's going to be the starter at left tackle. Tell the world. Rasheed Walker, and there's no contest going on.
Well, I would say this. We both know who should be the starting left tackle. If they decide to start, like, let's say it's a dead heat, and they give the job to Jordan Morgan because he's a. Well, I don't know.
All right.
And I'm not willing to say he's definitely going to be, but I think he definitely should be. Put it that way.
And Morgan, he'll be the starter next year. Walker's done after this year.
That's what I would do. Yes, and he's going to play this year. Somebody's going to get hurt. So then no one's going to. They're not all 5 guys are not going to start all 17.
And he
games.
can play multiple positions, right?
He can play the guard spots. He could play both tackle spots. If the whole idea of drafting guys that are left tackles is they're good. They should be good enough to play anywhere other than center.
So the question is, how early will they say the battle for left tackle is over?
Not as early as last year when they basically determined it was over before it started.
I look forward for when you tell us it's over.